Scottish independence. Mass rallies mark referendum climax. Independence supporters attended a mass event in the centre of Glasgow, where they were urged to vote yes for a prosperous Scotland. At the same time, pro-UK campaigners gathered nearby to insist the case for independence had not been made. The latest polls have suggested the result is too close to call. An Ipsos-MORI survey for broadcaster STV, which was published on Wednesday afternoon, put support for yes on 49% against 51% for no when undecided voters were excluded. The Panelbase poll released earlier on Wednesday, which was not carried out for any media outlet, suggested support for independence was on 48%. With 52% support for Scotland staying in the UK, once undecided voters were excluded. This was the same figure as polls released on Tuesday evening by Opinium for the Daily Telegraph, another by ICM for the Scotsman and a third by Survation for the Daily Mail. Speaking at the pro-independence rally, Yes Scotland chairman Denis Canavan attacked the back of a fag packet pledge of further devolution made by the leaders of the three main Westminster parties. He told supporters, avowed, "It looks like something written on the back of a fag packet at the fag end of a long campaign. But the people of Scotland will not be fooled. There is only one guarantee of getting more powers for the Scottish Parliament, and that is by voting yes. So let's take that message out. Let's take our message out to every street, every city, every town, every village, every community, every workplace, every home in Scotland." About 2,000 Yes supporters later congregated in the city's George Square, where they made a noisy show of their support for the campaign, waving saltires in the afternoon sun as they cheered speeches and sang along to music. They were confronted by a small group of no supporters who chanted at them before turning their backs on the square. Meanwhile, Better Together head Alistair Darling urged anyone who had doubts about independence to vote no. Addressing supporters alongside former Prime Minister Gordon Brown at a Love Scotland, Vote No rally, he said, "If you have such a momentous decision to take, you need to have certainty. What is very clear at the end of this long campaign, from the nationalist side there is no certainty at all. For anyone in Scotland who has any doubt, be in no doubt, you have to say no." On the final day of campaigning, First Minister Alex Salmond published a letter to the people of Scotland in which he told them they will hold power in their hands as they vote to determine their country's future. Mr. Salmond asked voters to step back from the political arguments and statistics that have defined the two-year campaign and trust in themselves as they go into the polling booth. He said, "The talking is nearly done. The campaigns will have had their say. What's left is just us, the people who live and work here. The only people with a vote. The people who matter. What is very clear at the end of this long campaign, from the nationalist side there is no certainty at all. For anyone in Scotland who has any doubt, be in no doubt, you have to say no." On the final day of campaigning, First Minister Alex Salmond published a letter to the people of Scotland in which he told them they will hold power in their hands as they vote to determine their country's future. Mr. Salmond asked voters to step back from the political arguments and statistics that have defined the two-year campaign and trust in themselves as they go into the polling booth. He said, "The talking is nearly done. The campaigns will have had their say. What's left is just us, the people who live and work here. The only people with a vote. The people who matter." Both campaigns have been out in force in Glasgow this morning as they do what they can to rally support for their respective sides in the final hours before the vote. First up, it was Yes Scotland who gathered on the steps of the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall. beside the statue for Donald Dewar, the architect of devolution, sporting a "Yes" sticker it is unlikely he would have approved of. Chairman Dennis Canavan described the independence movement as the biggest grassroots campaign Scotland has ever seen, and they wanted that to show. The former Labour MP joined by SNP members, Greens, SSP activists, Women for Independence campaigners and members of Deacon Blue, among others. Immediately after, a few miles away in Marehill, it was Better Together's turn. All the big guns of the campaign were gathered at the community hall: Gordon Brown, Alistair Darling, the leaders of the three main opposition parties at Holyrood. Any weariness as the campaign reaches its crescendo was well hidden. Brown worked the crowd into a frenzy talking about his vision for social justice in Scotland and the questions he says have been left unaddressed by the SNP. Speaker after speaker received standing ovations as they outlined why they were voting no. Both campaigns have fought long and hard. It is nearly decision time. Today programmed that the referendum campaign had been one of the most exhilarating in Western Europe, and said he was assuming absolutely nothing about the result. Watching people queuing to register to vote had been a humbling sight, he added, and pledged to honour Clause 30 of the Edinburgh Agreement, by which both sides agreed to honour the result and work in the best interests of Scotland and the UK regardless of the outcome. Referring to Spain's apparent opposition to automatic Scottish entry to the EU, Mr. Selman said Scotland had 1% of the EU's population, but 20% of its fish stocks, 25% of its renewable energy and 60% of its oil resources. He argued that anybody who believed the country would not be welcome in the EU did not understand that Europe accepts democratic results and that Scotland has a huge amount to contribute. Mr. Darling told the Today programme that he thought there would be a no vote, but even if there were not, he would play his part in doing the best I possibly can for Scotland. "I'm not going. This is my country. I'm staying," said Mr. Darling. But he said that did not mean he would sign up to the nonsense in the Scottish Government's White Paper, and insisted that Alex Salmond is not Team Scotland. Mr. Darling also warned that, whichever way the vote went, there would be hard work healing divisions in Scottish society which had emerged during the campaign. He cited some internet comments and Sunday's demonstration at the BBC in Glasgow, which he said some people found frightening. "We all have to say we live in a democratic country. There are some people who have stepped over the line. But we've got to calm things down because we've got to live together." Scottish Labour leader Johann Lamont and leader of the Scottish Conservatives Ruth Davidson had been out campaigning overnight. Ms. Lamont, along with her deputy Annas Sarwar, met print workers on the night shift at Trinity Mirror Print Works. The politicians promised better, faster, safer change with a no vote. Mass rallies mark referendum climax.